I suppose we might as well get started.
Yep, people are out for Christmas apparently.
Then I guess I'll say welcome to everyone to the pre-Christmas edition of Origin Weekly Community Call. We've got several people out this week, I think, so it might be a bit shorter, but the blockchain never takes a day off, so I guess neither do we. On today's agenda, we will flag a few surprises from the past week, get a quick update on OUSD liquidity mining campaign, going to review our current sprint priorities, talk about the state of reward token harvesting. Daniel, I think you're going to show off our new strategist tools, and then we'll check in on our governance proposals. Of course, anyone join us at originprotocol.com/Discord if you're not there already. And we'd love for you to introduce yourself at the end of the call if you have not said hi before. So unless anyone has something they want to kick it off with, we should start with a few announcements or surprises from the past week. And the first one that I had was that our docs, that's docs.ousd.com, we have those translated into a variety of different languages, but we haven't revisited those translations in probably many months. So they're out of date. This is something that somebody brought to my attention when they were reading them in Russian, I think. So we should revisit our process for that. And I think we have a team of volunteer translators who we probably just need to ping and make sure that we're regularly getting updates. But Josh, I think you had another suggestion in addition to that. Did you want to add that?
Sorry. I was distracted there for a minute. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, no problem. I was talking about the translated docs being out of date, and I think you were suggesting that we add a warning to tell people to check the English version.
I think that realistically we're not going to update the translations that frequently, and so things that are critical that people get the right information, such as on the registry or knowing which smart contract is for oracles, whatever. I think we should just either just keep the English versions for those critical pages, or just add clear disclaimers that these are the translated docs are not translated as frequently, and to always check the English version to get the most up-to-date values.
Yeah, I like that. I think we will do a big push here in the coming days to get all of them updated again. But I like the suggestion, and I think I would suggest leaving those critical pages intact so that when people see those disclaimers, hopefully, they would compare them to the English version and see an opportunity to do the updated translation.
That's a great idea. Let's do that.
Okay. I will try to figure out what the process is there. It's been a while since I've looked at how our translation team is set up. So I will revisit that and see if we can get that done by next week, or at least make some progress on it. Okay, the next thing, there were a couple of surprises from the past week. One of them is that when we moved a lot of funds to the convex strategy, that resulted in a significant amount of slippage, which I don't think that was a surprise, but we probably surprised a handful of people in the community by not warning them about the pause on the rebates that happened for a couple of days and negative yield on the APY. Daniel or Josh, is there anything that you would like to say about that, or anything we should do differently in the future?
Yeah, it was something we were expecting and knew would happen, but yeah, we probably should have communicated that ahead of time. And the slippage wasn't that bad. We're only talking about a day and a half worth of non-rebasing, or no reward token, but just the standard reward over the course of moving 50% of the funds over. So it wasn't a huge amount of slippage at all in absolute scales, or even relative to the size of the funds in use. But it did cause a lot of people to wonder why no rebase, and we should have communicated that, I guess, at least in Discord ahead of time.
Yeah, and this wouldn't have been an issue if we'd ramped up slowly, as we said we were going to, because then the yield would have caught up as we were going. But because we were behind on schedule and then everything had to come in all at once, we took that one-time hit. Hopefully, going forward, everything will be more gradual. So if we're making a change, it will be moving 5% more into Convex instead of moving 50% into Convex. And that won't, show up in negative rebases. And if we do a massive swing, we can just spread it out over a few days so that it doesn't have that negative APY, which is just going to raise a lot of questions for people.
Yeah, and to be clear, we didn't actually have a negative rebase. USD kept the same amounts in everyone's wallets. It just didn't rebase up.
Yeah, I guess thanks for that clarification. For those who are watching on the community call and recording, OUSD only rebases in the positive direction. And so when we took out a little bit of slippage, you can figure out a little bit of debt that we took on with ourselves, and then we just paid it back in a day and a half. So your balance will never go down if you're holding OUSD. It may just not go up for a little bit of time, which is what happened in this case.
Okay. The other thing that I noticed was that there were some issues with Ledger users not being able to choose the appropriate address after choosing a derivation path. I think I saw Daniel or Josh ping Tom to look into that, but I think Tom's out, and I don't know if he would have seen that message. Is that something that somebody else could investigate? Or did anyone hear back from Tom?
I haven't had a chance to confirm the issue. I've actually only tested the legacy path, which is what I use. But it's easy enough for me to check whether the addresses match on the Ledger Live path, which is what people are complaining doesn't match expectations. So it's possible we just got that derivation path wrong or fumbled that somehow. So if I'll test it when I get a chance, or if someone beats me to it, please share that with us if those indeed don't match.
Okay, sounds like a plan. We'll let you take the lead on that, and let Doman or Daniel know if it needs to be fixed. Good deal. Any other announcements or surprises? Anything to flag before we get a liquidity mining update from Josh? Go ahead, Josh, if you want to.
Yeah, so we had a bit of a quiet week on the liquidity mining front because of the convex schedule is bi-weekly instead of weekly. We wanted to save some of our rewards for convex bribes this week. So we only put 250K towards CRV bribes and 250K OGN towards LP rewards. Saved the other 500K OGN for this week, which we're planning to deploy into Votium for bribes there, as that is currently the highest yielding thing that we can do. The 250K bribes that we put into Curve, very disappointing. We're still down despite having bribed people to vote for us. So I don't know what to attribute that to. People not paying attention because it's the holidays. Something else being more compelling. But or maybe we've just saturated kind of the the people we can bribe over on the ECRV side. But we're a little bit disappointed by our results there, and going to be shifting our focus towards Votium, as we've said in the past. One other thing we are going to be focusing on is how we can rebalance our curve pool, because right now it's swayed quite heavily towards OUSD, which is driving down the effective price of OUSD. And so we'll be looking at how we can bring that back up into parity and have a higher confidence for everyone around. So that is definitely something we're paying attention to and think about how we can rebalance it there.
Yeah, it basically has a hard limit on that, where at the point in which it becomes profitable to arb it. So it won't go down farther than it is right now, basically. But yeah.
Okay, anybody have questions for Josh about the progress on the campaign? If you think of something.
I was just thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe an semi-related thing. Do we want to keep, the exit fee set in stone? Seems like that if we would reduce the exit fee, there would be more incentive to arb, and I guess the pools would be more in peg.
That question has crossed my mind as well, on whether we should reduce the exit fee just to bring the price closer to $1. Daniel, what are your latest thoughts on this from a security perspective?
I think it adds value from a security perspective, and it really, if there's room to arb between stablecoins or something, it keeps people from running through OUSD. I think the Chainlink oracles are way better than they used to be, and so I think we could reduce it from where it is, but I do think we should have it.
It's also worth noting that over time, that's where some of the yield comes from.
Daniel, how would we go about deciding what the new number should be? I agree with you; it shouldn't be 0, but I'm not sure how we figure out if it should be 0.45 or 0.25, like where we draw the line. Do you have some sort of thoughts on how we would decide that?
It's been quite a while since I've thought about it, so I'd have to rethink about what the conditions are for it. My gut feel is that it would probably be fine at 0.25%, but I'd have to think to figure out what the actual stuff would be on it. Well, we basically, if it's below the point of other alternatives for swapping stablecoins, then people essentially start using OUSD to swap stablecoins, which is somewhat to our disadvantage, I guess, in that OUSD would then tend towards having less of more valuable stablecoins if there's a difference.
But you get rid of the basket of rewards, which is a pretty big deterrent from people redeeming that way.
Yes, unless you're... Yeah. But you'd still be able, if you're putting one in and getting a basket out, you're still somewhat converting away from that one. But no, I would need to sit down and think what the ramifications and what are the considerations there.
Is that the main reason that we don't want people to use OUSD to, swap from one stablecoin to another and kind of...
It gives us precision against the oracles being that wrong is one reason. Now, we're no longer in a place where you would, because we limit what price we essentially buy and sell coins at to 1, so we never pay more than 1 OUSD for a stable coin, and we never sell a coin valued at more than 1. There's no line crossing the number of coins. Total number of stable coins held by OUSD should always go up when people are minting, redeeming, or stay the same. So we no longer have that potential issue. But if an oracle is wrong by, if a stable coin is off peg a little bit and an oracle is wrong about its price by, this just keeps it from being profitable to trade through OUSD on it. So it's not much use, I guess, in normal life other than keeping a mix of stablecoins and OUSD. But if prices were to be, if a stablecoin were to be a little bit off peg or something, it gives us padding, and that 0.5% padding was designed off of what we were seeing the Oracle behaviors before we switched to new USD denominated oracles on stablecoins, which have been much steadier than in the past. But basically, the main thing is it gives us, it keeps OUSD most of the time having a mix of stablecoins, and it keeps, it gives us protection from oracles being slightly off.
Thanks.
But this is the best tool we have right now for rebalancing the curve pool without arbing ourselves at a financial loss. So this is something I think should definitely be on
Another
the
thing
table.
we could throw in there would be the kind of the meta strategy of last week. You could do a very simple version of that to basically arb the cool curve pool with, essentially it's us doing it, so we're still protected from everyone else. Still goes through the percent, but we can just dial stuff into the curve pool with it.
We good to go for now? Think about it and revisit it next week.
Yeah, let's try and get to a point where we can issue a governance proposal around what we think is the right solution here, if any. Let's see if we can get to that point.
Daniel, do you want to be the owner of that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on liquidity mining campaign? Next on the agenda is a little bit of sprint planning. I mainly just wanted to review what our current engineering priorities were for the 2 weeks ending this Wednesday. So the big one was decentralized on-chain governance implementation. Tom was going to own the front end. Daniel was going to own the contracts. I know you've been working on some other things, Daniel. Tom is now out for the week. Can you give us an update at all on the status of that project?
I can't really. Yeah, I've been working on the strategist stuff last week, and I have not worked on the contracts, and I'm not sure where Tom is.
Okay. Well, I will check in with him when he's back, and we'll see if we can make some progress on that soon. Doman, I think you wrapped up the visual analytics dashboard. We've all been enjoying that now for a couple of weeks, and thanks for walking us through it last week. If anyone missed that, I think there's a recording on YouTube. Is there anything that you're still planning to do there, or is it in a good place for now?
I think we're good for now. There are always ideas like of things we could improve, but I think we got the most important stuff we wanted to get, like the data exposed. I think we got there. But yeah, I guess we'll be adding stuff in on there when there'll be like a need for it.
Good deal. And that reminds me that I hopped into the Dune Discord, which I didn't know about, and I was complaining to them about that caching issue that we see like periodically. Cache lookup.
Oh, cool.
They asked for a little more information, but didn't really have anything helpful to say. So I at least was able to get their attention in there. If we continue to see it, then we can report it to them.
Did they say they probably want some screenshots? Did they say anything else could be useful for them?
They didn't say much useful at all, but they at least were aware that that we were running into it, and I think they were curious to know if it was happening across all the queries or just one in particular. I think we've seen it on a couple of different ones. I don't think it's always the same one, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll keep a closer look on it.
I've seen it 3 times. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I just want to say I've seen it 3 times, but I'm not sure whether it was the same query or not.
Okay. Well, I'll keep an eye on it and let them know next time I see it. You've been working on some other things, Doman. One of them being the DeFi Pulse adapter. I think you submitted a pull request. Was that specifically for the A tokens? Because I know that the Convex holding is a different animal.
Yeah, that was for the A tokens. That was a pretty simple one. The Convex is a bit different because it uses a synthetic type of contract which doesn't mint a token, but you have to check the balance of it and then multiply it with the virtual price or something like that. I think it can be done, but it's a lot less convenient. I think there's gonna need to be some coding, not just some JSON configurable files, which is like super easy. So yeah, it's not something I can bang out like in a couple of hours. So I've put that ticket off.
Did they have support for supporting ERC20s? Basically, you can say, we could make a fake ERC20 that calculates the right balance, deploy this tiny contract, and then you could just point it at that.
Well, that's nice. That's out of the box thinking right there. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Pretty cool. They also like support. They have some sort of SDK, and you can do some API calls. So I think I haven't gone through the whole docs of that, but I think it should be possible to be done with that. But that's good thinking. If we got a plan B, that's certainly going to work. Though I think you need an oracle for the token.
Well, those are easy to fake too.
Okay.
Same contract can be its own oracle.
Well, and guess what? Like a bunch of the stuff that's on DeFi Pulse is pulling these totals from Convex. We're not the only people doing this, so let's not reinvent the wheel here.
Right.
Let's go copy and paste the solution. This is more important now that over 50% of our holdings are in Convex, and we're showing up way lower in DeFi Pulse solutions. So let's impressions matter, public perception matters, and a lot of people think the LUSD is doing a lot worse than it is because we're way down the rankings on DeFi Pulse. We're not where we should be on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, and that's a big problem. We need to figure this out.
That's a good point. Thanks.
Doman, if you're unable to find any of those other adapters to copy from or to borrow some inspiration from, let me know and I'll help track those down.
Cool, thanks.
So your other big project, Doman, that you were working on was making it possible for strategies to sell more than one reward token. How's that going?
I'm making nice progress. It's just hard for me to estimate how long it's gonna take because I have no idea. But yeah, I am making progress.
Okay.
And if you want, you and I can catch up tomorrow morning and look over the code.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right. And then Daniel, you also added a reward token collection project here. Why don't we just jump right into, well, did you want to talk about strategist tools first, or did you want to?
Yeah, we'll talk about strategist tools first, and then we can go into the reward token collection.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll turn it over to you then, unless anyone else has any other questions about sprint priorities. Actually, there's one thing, sorry. I just wanted to mention to Josh and Matt that the new staking contract did not get booked for the sprint that we're nearing the end of. So if we want to include it in an upcoming sprint, I think we still need to confirm what the spec would be there. Daniel?
All right, I am sharing my screen here. So you'll have to click watch stream in order to see it.
I'm watching.
Cool. So when the multi-sig runs, the strategist multi-sig runs commands to move money from one strategy to another, what is actually being run is something that looks very much like this. And this also Now the strategist multisig can only move things between approved strategies that have already been approved to OUSD, so it can't just move funds off into the wilderness or take them, but it can only move between strategies, so there's some safety there. But it still has been a little bit of a pain because you have to go create something that looks like this, and then the other multi-stakeholders have to go look at it and ensure that it's correct and that the addresses are correct and that the amounts are correct and stuff. So this week, as we're moving to a voting followed by execution by the multi-sig or strategist multi-sig, I've made some tools to make that easier. So what this does is it lets you build a funds move here. So if I wanted to move, let's say 10 million USDC and 5 million USD, 2 million USDT from Compound to Aave, I can put this in and it will generate the code that is actually going to need to be executed by the multisig. And then I can copy this and it would be after I submitted it to a multisig, somebody else can go over here with this validator program and paste it in and see what is actually being done here. So they can see that it's going from Compound to Aave, moving USDC and USDT and how much it's moving. This handles validating each one of these addresses so that if it's a bad address or it will throw an error. So if I go over here and I change the from address here and make it something else, it will make a big old ugly sign here that it's not the validated address. So this will give us a lot more velocity on figuring out, or just not having to spend hours doing every single fund move, particularly since we've moved to a weekly cadence. One other thing is that if you're moving funds into and out of convex, you can put in a maximum loss amount. This builds a more complicated transaction that will check for slippage afterwards. It will basically total the entire vault value of OUSD before the transaction, do the move into or out of convex, and then total the entire OUSD vault value afterwards and cancel the transaction if it's not enough. It also supports if you want or expecting a positive result from shifting into or out of convex, and it will also check that. Yeah, any questions?
Super cool.
Yeah. I saw you talking about a multi-call, I think last week. Is there a contract side to this?
Yes, so there's a couple official multi-call contracts by Gnosis Safe. And surprisingly enough, although you can't submit to them from the Gnosis Safe UI, you can, they do support showing you what multi-calls are being run. So they'll show you that this is actually 3 calls, and this is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third one. So you basically validate each one of those separately to see each one of the calls inside the multi-call. But it's an official Gnosis thing, and they did have a contract that supports calls only and not any delegate calls, since delegate calls could be very dangerous, could wreck your safe if something was malicious. So they did have the kind of contract we want. The Yearn team has built a tool to submit transactions to Gnosis safes and multi-calls in particular, and it's just makes that part pretty easy to deal with. So I think there's stuff in Origin Dollar Discord on the commands I ran to execute stuff. It's called ApeSafe, and it works pretty well.
Yeah, it's an awesome tool, and this is really going to help us move faster. So great work, Daniel. One question I have is, what are your thoughts on like actually simming this out and actually having the ability to run scenarios, right from the browser on what the expected outcomes would be from those moves? I'm thinking of like what Tenderly has, where you can simulate stuff right in the browser. If you could either integrate with their stuff or build their own to actually, let you play in real time with some numbers and see kind of how it impacts the ball.
Yeah. I think that'd be useful. I guess it'd be like a week of my time to build it. At the moment, I can do it, but it would be nice for everybody to be able to do it. I do it just in Brownie, and I have a function that spits out all the values of the different things, how much is in each strategy in the vault, so I can just run it before and after each trying things out. But it'd be nice for Y to use to be able just to play with it in the browser. So I guess it'd be a week.
Yeah, and these are
Somebody else
tools
can
we'll
code
probably
it
want to
faster.
make. Yeah, I mean, we want this as part of governance, right? If people are going to be, we want people to be making educated decisions
Yes,
when
very
they're
much so.
allocating stuff and voting in our weekly, allocation vote. So giving people the right tools to be able to make these decisions would be very valuable.
Yeah, I guess it's all how it fits in the priorities, but it'd be simple enough to build. And fun too.
Cool. Well, you want to talk about the state of reward token harvesting?
Yes. So right now we actually have 128K worth of rewards tokens to harvest. We have 20K worth of Aave, 49K worth of Convex, 31K worth of CRV curve tokens, and 28K worth of comp. We are not actually harvesting any of them as of this moment because we have there's a little too much slippage on the comp token side, and so that's aborting harvesting or selling the yield tokens. We need to fix that, and my priority for this afternoon is to figure out the best approach to that. Sorry, I didn't get that in before this meeting, but that is definitely a blocker since that also blocks large mints. Aave tokens are weird because you have to lock up your tokens basically for 10 days, and then you have a window that lasts for 2 days, and during that window you can sell them. Right now, we have been doing that successfully, but right now, since we reached a supply point where there haven't been any minting in the last 3 days or so, we missed the window to sell those. So we're going to need to, I think, two options I see are either we need to run fairly frequently, do our reward token sales, which we've got another thing to discuss with there, but just moving to 2 reward token sales a week doesn't actually fix that, just because of the fact that it really needs to be poked every 11 days. Another option there would be to have a smarter keeper that sees when Aave tokens need to be sold and runs just for the Aave tokens, since that's basically on its own 11-day cycle. It can just basically query the stake Aave and see when OUSD's Aave's ready to sell. Or the third option would just be to run those commands from the multisig the strategist multisig as they need to be sold. That'd be basically one action every 11 days. You want to talk about that Aave one first, since that's the first decision-y one?
Sure.
Any thoughts or preferences on those 3 approaches?
My only recommendation is that we try not to make the harvests really predictable, the timing of them.
Well, I guess that would be strategist actions, or if you really wanted to conceal the harvest, that would be a strategist action run through something like Flashbots, where it doesn't show up in the mempool, if you wanted to do it that way.
I lean more towards just doing it more frequently, which smooths out our APY, makes it less economically viable to front run it. And I think it's going to be important as more and more of our yield is coming from Convex, which has a very low base APY and very high dependence on rewards tokens. And so I think we're going to, no matter what, we have to increase our cadence.
Yeah, I really
because we
agree with
don't,
that.
yeah, because we don't want we don't want to be taking on slippage when we're swapping our rewards tokens, and we don't want huge bumps in our APY because that does give people opportunities to front run us, and it raises a lot of questions for people on why the APY is a roller coaster. So just
So
doing
how
more
often are
frequent.
you thinking? Because yeah, I think once a week is terrible and we should change with shifting over to
Yeah.
convex.
So I've always thought the solution here is not doing it on a calendar, but doing it based on how many rewards have piled up. So my proposal would be that we check every day, and then if we've hit some certain dollar value of rewards that we think is meaningful enough that a high enough percentage of the entire pool that it makes sense for us to liquidate them, then we do it on that schedule.
Well, we can definitely do that from the keeper. They have that support for checking. We'll have to do. I was actually looking since I was doing rewards token math this morning. Convex is a little bit of a pain, but it's only like a few hours worth of pain to figure out the right way to do that. So yeah, we can definitely do that and make a keeper. Do you have some kind of idea of what threshold you're thinking of?
I'll have to look at the numbers to see.
Okay.
But basically, where we're trying to get to is how do we get a relatively smooth APY at the end.
Now
So
people are looking at it daily, so actually synced daily, will make it the smoothest possible chart. Although, skip a day if there's not enough. But the convex rewards should be coming in on a pretty regular cadence anyway.
yeah. It doesn't necessarily need to run every day. It should ebb and flow with how much TBL we have, and if there's a lot of capital in there, we should be running it maybe even multiple times a day, right? But for right now, we should be checking once a day and running it every couple days. But what exactly those thresholds are, we'll need to do the math to figure that out.
Okay. So you're the person who's going to figure out the math on how often we should run.
Okay.
It's mostly a financial. It's mostly a. It mostly comes down to gas costs. Gas for free, just run it all the time.
Sure.
Okay. Well, continuing on our convex rewards tokens, which are now going to be probably 2/3 of our yield right now, since they're roughly twice the rewards or twice the APY as Aave and Convex, and make up 51% of our allocation right now. We are not selling either Convex or CRV right now. We have code in to sell CRV. It's in the time lock, or it's not in the time lock yet. It needs to be put into the time lock. So we need to figure out where that proposal's at in the governance. And then once that's executed, we should be selling a CRV. For Convex, we are still waiting on an oracle from Chainlink. I pinged them last week just saying, let me know when it's coming, but I guess I will ping them again today. I think they had said next week. I think they'd said that last week. It should be up, but I checked this morning and it's still not up yet. But we'll have we'll have to write the code to use that oracle, which should be pretty simple. And we can start selling that manually with the strategist after we have that oracle in place. Any other questions?
None from me. If anybody else thinks of anything to add, don't hesitate to interrupt. Otherwise, the last thing on the agenda is our governance proposals. I've in the meeting notes here, which are linked in the Origin Dollar discussion channel in Discord. I've linked the proposal from last week for our strategy allocation, which led to the big move of funds from compound to convex. And we've also linked the same proposal for the upcoming week. As Daniel mentioned, we're going to be doing this every week. We talked about the process last week, but I wanted to ask, since we've gone through one of these, how does everyone feel about how the process went of having a snapshot proposal, everyone voting on where the funds should be allocated, and then executing it later in the week?
We need to get our participation up. There were only like 3, maybe 4 people who voted. And so, we all talked about it, everyone excited about it, but no one voted. So we need to get our participation up. We don't want this to be just the Origin team deciding where these funds should go. We want the whole community and all people who are holding OUSD and OGN to weigh in on these decisions. This is the right direction for us to be going. And so it's really exciting to be taking this big step towards decentralized governance. We're very happy to be handing this all over to the community to make these kind of decisions. One change we made for between last week and this week is we broke up the voting for convex. Last week we just had one option for convex. This week we have USDT, USDC, and DAI. Big caveat there that we can't take slippage if it's not balanced, but we do allow you to vote based on each currency. Since we went ahead and moved in a bunch of USDC, that wasn't balanced this week, so we broke that out.
And the voting for that new proposal for the coming week's allocation opens at 7 p.m. Eastern, I believe. So when we get a little bit closer,
that's correct.
When we get a little bit closer to the opening, we'll post that and a reminder in Discord. Let everyone know.
And I'll try updating the funds allocation doc that's linked there with any considerations I see that we need to think about when allocating funds right now.
Good deal. Thanks. Let's see. We also have been making proposals of our own on other projects. Coleman, you've got a couple here linked in the notes for Abracadabra and Maker. You want to give us a quick summary of what those are and how we can help?
Both of them are proposals to get OGN and the Maker proposal is to get OGN and OUSD as collateral to mint DAI. So the process for governance on Maker goes like this: you make a proposal in the forum, which we have done. Then there's 2 weeks of discussion before it can be included in something called a community greenlight poll. And these polls are held on, I believe, the 1st and 3rd weeks of every month. If we pass this greenlight poll, then the Maker team is going to do like an analysis or investigation of the proposal to make sure it's viable and legal and all that. And then it's submitted for an on-chain vote. So, if you haven't checked it out or commented, please do. But please leave, thoughtful comments. Sometimes when we link these to our community, we get, a bunch of like OGN Moon type comments, which are probably harmful to the discussion and proposal. So I think the next steps are have a bit more discussion on the forums, and then we have to ask to be included in the community greenlight poll after December 28th. That's when the 2 weeks discussion period lapses for this Maker proposal. For Abracadabra, the proposal, it's linked in the document. This is, so if folks don't know what Abracadabra is, it's basically Maker DAO, but instead of using ETH or USDC to mint DAI, you're using your LP tokens from Curve or Convex or whatever. So if you're a liquidity provider, you can mint MIM, Magic Internet Money, which is like a stable coin, so you can leverage and get increased liquidity on your LP tokens. So we're trying to get the OUSD pool on Curve, get those LP tokens to be accepted as collateral for borrowing or minting or whatever they call in their parlance, MIM. The way that Abracadabra governance works is you create a proposal in the forum, which we have done, and then afterwards, there's no set guidelines. We have to create another forum thread called a request for comment thread, which is more official. And then after this is accepted by the community, and there's no strict guidelines from that, it goes to a snapshot poll. So token holders get to vote on whether or not it's accepted, and there are guidelines for that. So I think the next steps here are just continue to get more discussion and build support, and then it's kind of up to our discretion when to post a request for comment thread, and hopefully bring it to a successful vote. Does anyone have any questions about how this works, or?
Yeah, for anyone on the call or in the community that has influence in either of these communities, or know some of the whales or influencers, please let us know. A lot of these types of governance proposals are very political as far as knowing the right people and talking to them. So if anyone in our community can help, please speak up and let us know how you might be able to help us push these proposals through, as they'll have significant impact for both OGN and OUSD.
Thanks, Coleman, for leading that effort. And I know you also created a discussion on the Ledger Live GitHub repo. I am going to make a pull request there and see if that also helps us in our effort to get listed in Ledger Live.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I can give a quick update on OUSD listings on CoinGecko's CoinMarketCap and Ledger. So with CoinMarketCap, I back channeled, even though we're not supposed to do that. I back channeled to some of their team, and they have elevated our ticket and said that they would take a look at it. I'll check in with them next week. It's the holidays, so things might be slow. For CoinGecko, there's still an issue with the APIs for Curve, and they said they're too busy right now or something like that to fix it. But I guess we'll check in with them next month. And then Ledger, their process for getting new assets is pretty confusing or opaque, but we started a discussion on their GitHub, and Micah has submitted a pull request. I've also been talking to various team members on LinkedIn, and they requested some more information, and I gave it to them, and they said realistically the earliest that they could add OUSD support for Ledger Live would be in January because of the holidays and a backlog.
And just to be clear, OUSD works just fine on ledgers right now, but it doesn't show up in the UI as a supported asset. So that's what we're trying to fix. But if you send your OUSD to a ledger, you can use it just fine. But it would be nice to have it show up, as it's raising a lot of questions from OUSD holders who are confused why it doesn't show up in their app.
All right, thanks, Coleman, for all those updates. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to cover, or is there anyone who would like to say hi and introduce themselves and let us know how you ended up here and what you're working on? there's always next week if you decide that you want to say hi and join us again. That will be a day or two after Christmas, I think, but we're still planning to be here as we were this week. Promise that we will, in fact, keep it shorter than we did today, but I think today was a good meeting. There are a handful of action items that I captured. One was Josh to figure out what the parameters should be for our harvest. Daniel to think about exit fee implications and decide whether or not we want to make any changes there. Josh, you're also going to investigate the ledger derivation path issue and let Daniel or Doman know if you're able to reproduce it. And then, as I mentioned, I will make a pull request on that Ledger Live repo and see if that helps us make some progress there. Anything else to add before we go? If not, then have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is that you'll be doing over the next week. Until then.
Have a great one.
Happy holidays.